History, as we know it, is written by those who survived it. But woven between the documented wars, the treaties, and the rise and fall of empires, there are threads that don't quite fit the tapestry. Strange events, vanished civilizations, objects that shouldn't exist, people who appeared from nowhere and disappeared just as quickly, structures that defy the engineering capabilities of their time. These are the mysteries that keep historians awake at night, the ones that challenge our understanding of the past and force us to ask uncomfortable questions about what we think we know today. We're going on a journey around the world and across thousands of years of human history. We're going to explore some of the most baffling, bewildering, and downright bizarre mysteries that history has to offer. Some of these you may have heard of, others might be entirely new, but all of them share one thing in common. Despite centuries of investigation, nobody has been able to fully explain them. So settle in. This is going to be a long one. Let's begin. We start our journey in the year 1587 on the coast of what is now North Carolina in the United States. This is the story of the Roanoke Colony, sometimes called the Lost Colony, and it remains one of the oldest unsolved mysteries in American history. In 1587, a group of approximately 115 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island under the leadership of John White. This wasn't the first attempt at colonization in the area. Sir Walter Raleigh had previously sent expeditions in 1584 and 1585, but those efforts had largely failed due to conflicts with indigenous peoples and supply shortages. This time, the colonists were determined to make it work. Among them were men, women, and children, including White's own daughter, Eleanor Dare, who gave birth to Virginia Dare shortly after arriving. Virginia Dare is historically recognized as the first English child born in the Americas, but almost immediately things went wrong. Supplies ran low. Relations with local Native American tribes were strained, partly due to the hostile actions of previous English expeditions. The colonists urged John White to sail back to England to get more supplies and reinforcements. White reluctantly agreed and departed in late August of 1587. What happened next is where the mystery begins. White intended to return quickly, but fate had other plans. England was on the brink of war with Spain, and Queen Elizabeth I had commandeered all available ships for the defense against the Spanish Armada. White was unable to secure passage back to Roanoke for nearly 3 years. When he finally returned on August 18, 1590, what he found was nothing short of haunting. The settlement was completely deserted. Every single colonist, all 115 of them, including his daughter and granddaughter, had vanished. There were no signs of struggle or battle, no bodies, no graves. The buildings had been dismantled, not destroyed, which suggested a planned departure rather than a hasty escape. The only clue was a single word carved into a wooden post: Croatoan. On a nearby tree, the letters Kiaro had been carved as well. White knew that Croatoan referred to a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island, which was home to the Croatoan people, a friendly Native American tribe. He wanted to sail there immediately to search for the colonists, but a violent storm forced his ships out to sea, and he was never able to return. So what happened to the colonists? Over the centuries, numerous theories have been proposed. The most widely accepted theory is that the colonists integrated with local Native American tribes, possibly the Croatoan or the Lumbee. There is some evidence to support this. In the years following the colony's disappearance, explorers and settlers reported encountering Native Americans with distinctly European features, including gray eyes and lighter skin. The Lumbee tribe, which still exists today, has long claimed descent from the Roanoke colonists, and some Lumbee family names bear striking resemblance to the surnames of the lost colonists. Other theories are darker. Some historians have suggested the colonists were killed in a conflict with hostile tribes. Others have proposed they tried to sail back to England on their own and were lost at sea. A more recent theory, based on archaeological evidence, suggests the colonists may have split into smaller groups and scattered across the region, with some heading inland. In 2012, researchers at the British Museum re-examined a map drawn by John White and discovered hidden markings that appeared to indicate a fort symbol located about 50 miles inland from Roanoke. Subsequent archaeological digs in that area, near the mouth of the Chowan River, uncovered European artifacts dating to the late 16th century. This lent credibility to the idea that at least some of the colonists moved inland. But despite all the theories, the ultimate fate of the Roanoke colonists has never been proven. Now let's travel across the Atlantic to Europe and forward a couple of centuries in time. Actually, let's go backward. Way backward. Because the next mystery on our list involves a book that may be one of the strangest objects in human history. The Voynich manuscript is a handwritten book, roughly 240 pages long, filled with text in an unknown writing system, and accompanied by bizarre, colorful illustrations of unidentifiable plants, astronomical diagrams, and strange human figures bathing in networks of interconnected pools. It is named after Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer who purchased it in 1912 from a Jesuit college in Italy. But the book itself is much, much older. Radiocarbon dating of the manuscript's vellum pages places its creation somewhere between 1404 and 1438, squarely in the early 15th century. The ink and paint appear consistent with this dating, but here's the thing: nobody can read it. The text of the Voynich manuscript is written in a script that has never been seen anywhere else in the world. It consists of roughly 170,000 characters arranged in what appear to be words and sentences, with clear patterns that suggest it is not random gibberish. Statistical analysis has shown that the text follows the patterns of natural language, including a distribution of word frequencies that mirrors what you would expect from a real language, a property known as Zipf's law. The text also shows consistent patterns of word placement, suggesting grammar. And yet, despite over a century of effort by the world's best cryptographers, linguists, and codebreakers, including experts who cracked enemy codes during both world wars, nobody has been able to decipher a single word. The illustrations don't help much either. The botanical section, which makes up about half the manuscript, features drawings of plants that don't correspond to any known species. Some appear to be chimeras, combinations of different plants merged together. The astronomical section contains zodiac-like diagrams and what appear to be star charts, but they don't match any recognized astronomical system. The so-called biological section features small female figures immersed in green and blue liquid, connected by elaborate plumbing-like tubes, in scenes that have no clear parallel in medieval art or science. Theories about the manuscript's origin and purpose are plentiful and wildly varied. Some believe it is an elaborate hoax, perhaps created by Voynich himself, to sell for a profit, or by some medieval prankster. But the radiocarbon dating, combined with the statistical complexity of the text, makes a hoax seem unlikely, though not impossible. Creating a fake language that exhibits the statistical properties of natural language would be an extraordinary feat, especially in the 15th century. Others have suggested it might be a pharmacopoeia, a book of herbal remedies written in a coded or obscure language to protect valuable medical knowledge. Some researchers have proposed it was written in an early or obscure language that has since died out. In 2014, a Brazilian computer scientist claimed to have identified the text as an encoded form of Hebrew. In 2019, a British researcher claimed it was written in a form of Proto-Romance language. Neither claim has gained widespread acceptance. One of the most intriguing theories is that the manuscript was created by Roger Bacon, the 13th century English friar and polymath. This theory was popular in the early 20th century but has been largely discredited by the radiocarbon dating, which places the manuscript at least a century after Bacon's death. Another fascinating possibility is that the manuscript represents genuine knowledge, perhaps from a culture or tradition that has been lost, written in a script that was specific to a small community and never spread beyond it. History is full of examples of scripts and languages that were used by tiny populations and disappeared without a trace. The Voynich manuscript currently resides in the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University, where it continues to attract researchers, amateur codebreakers, and the simply curious. It sits there in its glass case, 600 years old, patiently waiting for someone to unlock its secrets. So far, it has defeated everyone who has tried. Deep in the coastal desert of southern Peru, an ancient civilization carved something extraordinary into the earth. Enormous drawings so large they can only be fully seen from the sky, a hummingbird stretching 300 feet wide, a spider, a monkey, a condor. These are the Nazca lines, and they have baffled researchers for nearly a century. They were created by the Nazca people somewhere between 200 BCE and 600 CE, made simply by removing reddish surface stones to reveal lighter ground beneath. The craftsmanship is staggering. Some straight lines run for miles with near-perfect precision. It remains one of the world's greatest unsolved puzzles. For our next mystery, we dive beneath the waves of the Mediterranean Sea to the site of an ancient shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera. Here in 1901, sponge divers discovered what may be the most astonishing technological artifact of the ancient world, the Antikythera mechanism. The mechanism is a complex device made of bronze gears approximately the size of a shoebox. When it was first pulled from the sea, it was heavily corroded and encrusted, and its significance was not immediately recognized. It took decades of study, including X-ray analysis and more recently advanced CT scanning, to reveal the extraordinary complexity hidden within. The Antikythera mechanism is, in essence, an analog computer. It was designed to predict astronomical positions and eclipses for calendrical and astrological purposes, and it may also have been used to track the four-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. It contains at least 30 interlocking bronze gears with teeth cut with remarkable precision. The mechanism could model the motion of the sun and moon through the zodiac, predict lunar and solar eclipses, and even account for the elliptical orbit of the moon, a mathematical sophistication that was not matched until the work of Johannes Kepler in the 17th century. The mechanism dates to approximately 150 to 100 BCE, making it over 2,000 years old. There is nothing else like it in the archaeological record. The next device of comparable complexity does not appear in Europe until the astronomical clocks of the 14th century, more than 1,000 years later. The Antikythera mechanism represents a technological capability that we did not know the ancient Greeks possessed, and it raises profound questions about what other knowledge and technology may have been lost. Who built it? The leading candidates include the workshop of the great Archimedes, who was known for building mechanical devices, or the astronomical school on the island of Rhodes, which was home to the astronomer Hipparchus. Some inscriptions on the mechanism reference calendars used in Corinth and its colonies, providing additional clues about its origin. The Antikythera mechanism challenges our assumptions about ancient technology and reminds us that progress is not always linear. Let's head north now, far north to the cold, waterlogged landscapes of Denmark, Ireland, the Netherlands, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Hidden beneath the dark, acidic waters of peat bogs, some of history's most perfectly preserved and deeply unsettling mysteries have been waiting for us. Bog bodies are human remains that have been naturally mummified in peat bogs. The unique chemistry of these bogs, a combination of high acidity, low oxygen, and the presence of sphagnum moss, creates conditions that can preserve human tissue, skin, hair, and even internal organs for thousands of years. The result is remains that look eerily lifelike, as if the person died days ago rather than millennia. Hundreds of bog bodies have been discovered across northern Europe, with some dating back as far as 8,000 BCE, though the majority are from the Iron Age, roughly 500 BCE to 100 CE. What makes these bodies so mysterious isn't just their preservation, it's how they died. Many of the bog bodies show signs of violent death, not just violent but ritualistically violent, in ways that suggest they were not ordinary murder victims but participants, willing or not, in some form of ceremonial killing. Take Tollen Mon, perhaps the most famous bog body of all. Discovered in 1950 in a peat bog near Silkeborg, Denmark, Tollen Mon dates to approximately 400 BCE. His preservation is so remarkable that when he was first found, the peat cutters who discovered him thought they had stumbled upon a recent murder victim and called the police. His face is serene, almost peaceful, with closed eyes and a slight enigmatic smile. He wears a pointed sheepskin cap and a leather belt around his waist, but nothing else. Around his neck is a braided leather noose. He was hanged. His last meal, preserved in his stomach, consisted of a porridge made from barley, flax, and the seeds of various wild plants. Analysis of the meal suggests it may have been a ritual preparation, possibly containing ingredients with symbolic significance. Then there's Grauballa Mon, found in 1952 near the village of Grauballa, also in Denmark. He dates to around 290 BCE. His throat was cut from ear to ear, so deeply that his gullet was completely severed. His skull had been fractured, and one of his legs was broken. His last meal was similar to Tollenmann's, a porridge made from multiple grains and seeds, including ergot, a parasitic fungus that can cause hallucinations and convulsions. Was he drugged before his death? Lindoman, found in 1984 in a peat bog in Cheshire, England, suffered what has been described as a triple death. He was struck on the head, strangled with a cord, and had his throat cut. Some researchers have also suggested he may have been drowned in the bog. His stomach contained mistletoe pollen, a plant with powerful ritual significance in Celtic culture. Old Croghan Man, discovered in 2003 in County Offaly, Ireland, was a massive individual, estimated to have stood about 6 feet 6 inches tall. His arms bore defensive wounds and he had been stabbed, his nipples had been cut, and hazel rods were threaded through holes in his upper arms. His body had been cut in half at the waist. Analysis of his fingernails suggested he had been well fed and had not performed manual labor, leading researchers to speculate he may have been of high social status. The Roman historian Tacitus, writing in the 1st century CE, provides a possible explanation. In his work Germania, Tacitus describes the customs of the Germanic tribes of northern Europe, including their practice of executing criminals, cowards, and social outcasts by drowning them in bogs. He also mentions that these tribes practiced human sacrifice, offering victims to their gods in exchange for military victory, good harvests, or other divine favors. Many modern scholars believe the bog bodies represent sacrificial victims, people who were killed as offerings to the gods, perhaps to ensure the fertility of the land or to avert disaster. The elaborate and ritualistic nature of the killings, the multiple methods of death, the careful placement of the bodies in bogs, and the presence of ritual meals all support this interpretation. But there are complicating factors. Some bog bodies show no signs of violence at all. Some appear to have been placed in bogs after natural deaths. Others were clearly murder victims who may have been dumped in bogs simply to hide the evidence. The reality is probably that bog bodies represent a range of different practices and circumstances, not a single unified tradition. What is undeniable is the power of these remains. Standing before Tullen Mon in his museum case in Silkeborg, looking at his 2,400-year-old face, so perfectly preserved that you can see the stubble on his chin and the wrinkles around his eyes, is one of the most profound experiences in all of archaeology. He was a person, a real human being, with a life and a story. And that story ended in a cold, dark bog. Thanks for listening. As always, stay curious.